Hello and welcome to Nonny, Yanga's flagship talk show where we discuss all the hot topics. Today's show is all about the healing process and overcoming storms against all odds. Joining me, author and motivational speaker Aisha Rebecca and author and entrepreneur Tosin Ogwe. Welcome, ladies. Tosin, first time on the show?
Yes.
Nice to see you.
Likewise.
Whether it's issues surrounding sexual abuse, neglect or marital problems, what were once open secrets within friendship circles and family are now openly discussed in various forums and even in front of millions of television viewers. Jada Pinkett Smith has made headlines for her raw and honest Facebook Watch show, Red Table Talk. The show sees her sitting at the table with her mother and daughter in a series of candid discussions about their family life, including her marital issues with husband Will Smith. Actress Gabrielle Union has also recently written a powerful memoir about her experience as a victim of sexual abuse in a bid to encourage others to speak out and highlight just how often it occurs. A sisterhood of trust and sympathy has been created, so much so that women are no longer fearful or being judged and are able to freely tell their stories. Aisha, do you think there is now a forum for African women? I say African women because sometimes, you know, we like to dress pretty, put our wig on and act like nothing's happened, whereas we are seeing, especially with Jada Pinkett Smith's Red Table Talks, which I absolutely love, women talking about things that usually we would have kept in the closet.
Absolutely, yes. There is an extreme outbursts of women sharing more, you know, of what they've been through, and I think it's absolutely important in this season that we come together and we share our narratives on these topics, because in the past a lot of women were suffering in silence, and they wouldn't speak. They dare not speak about it because it, you know, be seen as a taboo, you know, to go out there and, you know, put your whole life, as they would say, out there for everyone to see. So
do you think it's shame? Do you think sometimes it's shame within our community? Because one of the successes of Red Table Talk is the fact that Jada Pinkett Smith, if anybody hasn't seen it, she's with her mum and she's with her daughter. So they'll have one topic and they're having the opinions. Like sometimes her daughter Willow is like, oh my God, I never knew that happened. Do you think it's important that we, you know, bring in our mothers and different generations to discuss things openly, to get different perspectives on issues?
In the African community, you ought to bring the mothers. I don't know if the mothers would, within the African community, are open-minded yet, but I feel as though our generation, we're very open-minded, you know, we're confident, you know, we're married to men who push us to be the best women that we want to be. So I think there is that, like you said, the outburst of I want to be heard, and now is the time to be heard. And you've got one show that I watched, you know, when Tiwa Savage and her husband, I think that's a bit too much.
Yes, Tiwa, she's a friend of the show, yes.
Yeah, but she spoke and it's
openly
sort of
about her marital issues. Yeah,
bit too much from my own perspective, but again, I thought it was sort of needed. That a lot of people, women, were suffering in silence and dying in silence.
I think that's a really good point. It's good that you brought Tiwa Savage up, actually. And there's also Toke Makinwa. She's another one who's on Becoming. Her book is completely about what happened with her husband Maje at the time. But we are seeing, you know, a sisterhood circle evolving. Maybe that is because of social media, because it's not just Jada Pinkett Smith. There's various forums and outlets where women have shared their stories. Tosin, you shared some of your stories. Our viewers may not know you, but can you tell us a little bit about some of your backstory and why you decided to speak out about it?
Well, so my abuse started back in Nigeria.
Abuse? What kind of abuse?
Sexual, and just mental, verbal. You know, when you're told you're rubbish, you're not going to make it in life, or you know, you try to put your hands on something, and you just, you know, just the negative downpour. And then obviously for me, the sexual abuse started for the first time. I wrote in my book where the first penetration was when I was age 7, and you know, I remember it vividly. Do you see what I mean? And it carried on for years until I met my husband. You know, and the first night I met him, I told him everything. And
the first night?
Yeah, I was just like, look, you don't want, you don't, not the first night, like the second. So I met him today, and then tomorrow we met up, went to the cinema, and then we just, you know, relaxed and stuff. And then I was just like, yeah, and so you don't want this, trust me, you really don't. And he listened, and he didn't judge me for that, you know. So I think, yeah, it's
there was somebody you met that you felt that you could pile all this information on, and look,
and he was listening.
You're married, and 2 kids later, and he's still with you. He's still there.
10 years later.
How have you managed, Aisha? You've been on the show before, and we were speaking about marriage and relationships then, but we didn't really touch too much on your story. So, what gave you the confidence to speak out, and what are some of the background behind that?
I mean, my journey, as I would say, I'm originally from Guyana. My parents are Guyanese.
That's where the beauty is from.
Thank you. And I grew up in Guyana. I moved to the UK when I was 14. But before that, I'd already encountered a lot of challenges. Like Tosin, I was sexually abused as a child. I've tried to commit suicide as a child because of what had happened. And my mom at the time was living in the UK because she was born in the UK, and she moved back here to work to you know, obviously look for a better life for us. And at the time I thought it best if I kept it all a secret and not say, because the minute I thought if I'd spoken out about it, my mom will probably come back and it will just ruin everyone's, you know, plans or whatever. So I kept it all to myself. I got a job at the age of 13 working in a hair salon, and I was studying at the time. But then when I moved to the UK, I met my husband at 16, fell in love, just like Tosin. And you know,
happily ever after?
Happily ever after. It wasn't what I planned, absolutely. Sometimes, like I said last time on the show, when you meet somebody for the first time, all your intentions are pure and it's good. You don't plan to, you know, do certain things along the line, but then life happens. Then what do? You know, and that's exactly what happened in my case.
So did you find that speaking about it was actually so much better? Was it just kind of a weight that was lifted off your shoulder? Because not all the time.
Not all the time. Sometimes you're talking, but not necessarily. I mean, I remember vividly when it got so heavy for me. My husband and I went to therapy, and black people, they just found out, oh, you went to see a shrink. All right then. And I don't think the therapist was very useful for me. But
what has been useful for you?
Writing my book was my healing. And
so
then
we're going to talk about that more after the break, actually.
Yeah, literally just writing my book. It took 10 months to write the tiny book, but it's the having to unwind every little thing that I went through that was significant, that affected me. So a chapter was...
Did you know what? That's really interesting. We will talk about that more later. But just picking up, Aisha, on what Tosin was saying, that it's not always the best thing. We found, even with the hashtag #MeToo, you know, which became a Twitter storm. Everybody was saying, you know, me too, me too. There were some victims that said, actually, I don't want to be brought up in this. Even with the Harvey Weinstein scandal, and some were like, well, why don't you speak out? You're still going on the red carpet. You know, are you not going to stick up for me? They're like, leave me out of this. You know, actually, I would prefer not to speak out. Can you understand some women that, you know, are constantly hearing about Me Too, constantly hearing about sexual abuse, and that is more traumatic for them?
Yeah, I think a lot of women are afraid of change. They don't want to change. Why would they want to step out of their comfort zone and do something different? Speaking out, for us who've done it, we're a lot more relieved that we've done it. I'm so much relieved that I wrote my book, because, you know, now hearing a lot of it's helped a lot of people to heal.
And to find out that you're not alone.
Exactly, that you're not
that's
alone.
one of the most shocking things, isn't it? That you're like, you too? Yes, me too.
People right next to you as well. You would, you know, writing the book would trigger conversations, isn't it? That you'd think, I did not know that, you know, I did not think, I would never think you went through that as well.
But do we agree then that it's positive and it's important, especially for our younger viewers that are watching? It is important to find somebody that you can speak to. Sometimes it's not your partner, sometimes it's not your boyfriend, sometimes it's harder speaking to family members, isn't it? Very quickly before we wrap up, when people did read your book, or I'm presuming your mum does know your story now.
Absolutely.
Was it painful for her?
It was painful for a lot of people to read, especially my mum, because, you know, there's no love like a mother's love for her child. And knowing that your daughter has gone through all that and she's kept it to herself, I think, you know, that was difficult for her. But once she's read my book and she's seen how far I've come as well, she's super proud. So
I'm telling you. And very quickly, Tosin, do you think there can ever be anger from family members?
Yeah, definitely. My brother was angry when he read my book. He was so frustrated. why
With
didn't you
you?
yeah, just keeping it all in, and then why are you just talking now that you're 30? But the journey started at 7. Why didn't you tell
Wow.
anybody? You know,
But I suppose, you know, there's never a time limit, isn't there? It's
No.
whenever you feel
Yeah.
comfortable speaking about it. Still to come, we continue our discussion by exploring how these women here, have used writing as a method of healing. See you after the break. Welcome back to Nani. Now, the healing process after tragedy or trauma plays out differently for each individual. Writing as a form of therapy is something that more women are choosing, be it through an autobiographical account or as a series of blogs to help and encourage other women. Both Aisha and Tosin have written books that detail some of their toughest moments, of which they both say has been instrumental to their healing process. It's a age-old cliche, everyone's got a book in them, but some people have. But I have to say, if you're not a professional author, I admire any women that manages to write a book, because it's hard enough keeping up with a blog. Do you know what I mean? You write a blog and then it's like, oh yeah, that post was 2 years old, can't go back to that one, start another one, and it's the same thing. This is to anybody. How did you find the will and the strength to just keep going and going and say, I'm not going to stop, I'm going to do it, and then you reach the end?
I think for me personally, I've always journaled how I felt, because that's how, if I'm in a bad mood, I'll just type on my notepad in my phone. And all throughout the years I've done that. So my book was written, even though it wasn't a book at the time.
Wow.
It was just what I was going through.
A collection of thoughts.
All my thoughts, my feelings, how I was feeling in that day, what had happened, how it happened. So my book is very in detail. If you've read it, it's literally as it is. And for me, getting it out was very difficult, because after I'd read it, I'm like, oh God, Aisha, this is too transparent.
Really?
It was super transparent.
You were scared?
I was scared, because I was like, what are people going to think? You know, you've put on this, I mean, you've worked on a particular image, as most people do, whether it's on social media, in, you know, business realm, professional realm. I mean, I'm a nurse by background, so people at my workplace, they see me as caring for patients, or at home, a mom. But then all this happened to you. It's like, it's not the same person. And for me, that was the most difficult part of the whole journey.
But you did it.
I did it.
And how did you feel after you pressed
After-
send, is it? What do you press? You don't press send, but you kind of press send, yeah.
I mean, after the publishing company contacted me and said, this is a really good story, like it's super amazing, your journey, everything, we want to publish this into a book. I was like, oh my God,
Wow.
this is really
And
happening.
then you start thinking about the coins, boy.
And you know what, to be honest, I did, but then at the same time, my main goal was to help someone else.
Course,
I said, even if it's just one person's life is changed by this book, I'm just going to do it.
That's the only way we can do it, one
Yeah.
by one. Tosin,
Yeah.
that book is in your pocket. It's so tiny. It's so
literally.
tiny, but not tiny in content.
No.
And there was a process behind it. Just tell us everything about it.
Well, my process, it's been years in the making, but my process, if you want to talk about the literal writing the book from beginning to the end, took 10 months. And I had a team, so I had my branding team, my writing team. But I'm a videographer, so as a videographer, I always have a team anyway. So that was
There's
my
no because of a
mentality.
diva mode.
No, because I won't get it done. So
Okay.
I needed people. I needed people
push.
to be accountable to. Do you see what I mean? So, and because I had a writing team that I needed to be accountable to, because English is not my first language. So, well, it is, but if you see what I mean.
South London is your first language.
Yes, exactly. And if you read the book, it's literally, it's me. It's ghetto,
you talking.
it's authentic to itself. But obviously, I needed a team that would do the grammatical.
The fact that you had a team, did they ever come back to you after a chapter and be like, Tosin, are you serious?
Yeah, my branding manager was like, I don't want to read your book. This is really hard for me as a friend to read and swallow, but I was just like, I'm not getting someone else, so you're stuck with me anyway. But yeah, no, it took 10 months, and then obviously getting PR, everyone on board, everybody. I was getting apologies from family members, from one of my abusers. When the book was released, sent me an email on the night. He bought the book, the PDF on the night, and sent an email of an apology saying he's sorry for everything that he'd done to me. And just little, and for me, it was just the trigger of that, okay, wow, like an abuser can apologise, that's great. you know.
Okay, that's how you
Yeah.
took that apology.
I was a bit scared, so I was like, oh my God, guys. But I took it in a positive light that, okay, meaning he's got remorse in him, meaning that he wouldn't do it to somebody else. For me, that was important.
By the grace of God,
Yeah.
inshallah. That's
Yeah.
very interesting, isn't it? Why is it some people can only write when they're angry? What is it about writing it down? And because are there do you ever have some happy thoughts that you write down, or is writing just good enough just to release? And does it help release that pain?
Yes, absolutely. For me, it did. Writing for me was the only way. I mean, there was times that I did try, if you read in my book, I did try speaking to friends and they turn around and just stab me in the back. And I thought, what better way for me to tell my story than me? I mean, and also it will help someone else. So writing it was very therapeutic, because once I started writing, the words kept on flowing. And, you know, I felt better.
And you didn't even feel sometimes, oh my God, I've got to relive that. I've tried to bury that.
Mine was just...
Yours flowed. You found it difficult.
So there was a day I was writing a chapter and I literally broke down and I thought, I'm not doing this anymore. And then obviously my team was like, well, you started, you have to finish it.
Do you mind to explain some of the bits of that
Yeah,
chapter?
so there was a chapter that I had to sort of record trying to commit suicide when I had a miscarriage. And I didn't want to write that chapter because I had to think about hearing my daughter knocking on the door when I was trying to drown myself, and my husband was in the living room, and I just thought, and I put on Snapchat, I put a quote on Snapchat, I forgot what I wrote, but it's in the book, and my phone just started ringing, and I could hear my daughter. I just
was it a cry for help?
Yeah, literally, it was a cry for help. And people were listening, but then I decided to go into counselling. Then still in counselling. And so I called my counsellor and I said, I don't want to keep writing anymore. And she's like, don't give up. Writing is helping you to speak up and heal. So just keep going.
I think that's amazing, isn't it? I gave you the example at the beginning that I write, and a lot of journalists and people that write, it's hard. Yeah. It's hard to do it. But what kind of advice would you give to somebody, Aisha, who, is going through something, does scribble some things down, but writing a book just seems like a massive hurdle?
I would say keep writing. Just pour your heart out on your pen if that's the best way. Some people don't like speaking, like you say, speaking to people about their personal life. And I got to that place, whereas I got tired of telling people my business, and I just started, I just got tired. Didn't want to talk about it anymore. You know what I mean?
Make money from it. It's true. It's true.
I got tired, so I just thought, I'm just going to write it down. And eventually when I got to the place of, oh my gosh, this is a lot of words you've written, what are you going to do with it? But similar to what happened to her, I've tried to end my life twice. And I'm sure a lot of people have gone through the same things that we both have been through.
Yeah. It's so powerful. And this is one of the reasons why it's just so important to have these discussions, ladies, honestly, because if we don't talk about it, especially amongst our sisterhood, you just think you're doing it alone, and nothing on this earth is by yourself, isn't it? We're all going through certain things, but I think suicidal and suicidal thoughts and depression and even trying to act out suicide is real. It's serious, and so it's very important, even in the likes of Tiwa Savage, our friend, come back on the show. It's important for her to say these things because it's part of the healing process. So whether it's writing, whether it's starting a blog, doing Facebook Lives and social media, you have to be able to listen. But it's the judging now, isn't it? Have you, we're going to be wrapping up the show soon, but have you ever felt, whether it be in church, be it at a party, have you ever felt that that auntie was judging me, or that even after you've told your story, do you still feel there's been some negative feedback?
Absolutely. I think my book, for me, once I published it, I got a lot of
slap. The money started rolling in.
No, before that, before that I thought, my friends, I even got a text saying, who do you think you are? You can't just wake up one day and write a book. And I'm like, come on. But I got stuff like that from...
Jealousy? Could we say that was jealousy?
Yes, but at that time, I was hurting. Do you know what I mean? Like, I just wanted to get it out there. And
just give me a hug.
Just give me a hug.
Give me a hug and buy me a coffee.
Thank you.
That's what I want.
Buy the book.
Yes,
you know what I mean? Buy the book. But you do get that. You do get the feelings of, oh, is anyone looking at me funny today because they've read my book? But if you didn't feel that way, you won't be human. So you will get those feelings, but it's very important not to let that stop you. If anything, I use that as fuel to just keep going.
Well, we're definitely having the two of you back on because we need to continue this discussion.
Yeah.
But Tosin, I've got to say, what's the next chapter for you now? Every one of your chapters is a chapter.
Yeah.
What's the next chapter for you?
Well,
is it a film?
No, since I've released the book, I've had a lot of people just asking for help. So I've decided to start a course in counselling and psychology. So hopefully I'll be that therapist.
Maybe you'll be a ghetto therapist.
Yeah, literally. Like,
undershore.
Listen.
Giving some advice.
I will be that therapist, that, you know, down to earth therapist, not the.
Yeah. You'll be somebody that everyone can relate to. What about you, Aisha? Let me tell you, I wore those earrings, boy. Not today, but yeah, she helped me out. But what's the next chapter for you? Because you said you're a nurse, but surely you're not hiding in an NHS building.
No, I'm not. I'm not hiding in an NHS building. I'm literally just trying to evolve into something hopefully beautiful and amazing to give back into the world. And I'm constantly trying to help someone else, and that's what I do every single day.
Is there another book in you?
There
Maybe
is
some
next
non-fiction?
year. There is something coming out next year.
Lovely.
Keep a lookout.
And it's going to be a Nonny exclusive, right?
Oh yes, it'll be first
here on Nonny. You heard that, guys. That's it from me, Juliana Olayinka, and my fabulous guests, Aisha Rebecca and Tosin Ogwe. Don't forget, guys, Nonny is now online wherever you are in the world. Go to www.yangatv.com to check out every single episode. Join me next time for more Nonny Chat. Goodbye.